Hello listeners and welcome to the Montel Weekly Podcast, bringing you energy matters in an informal setting. In this week's episode, we're in Finland to discuss the developments and the outlook in the country's energy market. The country has seen the world's largest power plant come online this year, and wind power is also booming. But what does this mean for the market and for prices? Will demand grow the same way as supply? And what is the outlook for the security of supply ahead of the coming winter? Helping me, Richard Sverrisson, to discuss this is Riku Merikoski of Axpo, Marko Nieminen of the TSO Fingrid, and Heidi Paalatie of the Finnish Wind Power Association. A warm welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marko, if I can start with you. You know, there were concerns ahead of last winter about security of supply in Finland. Are we at the end of the crisis now? Have we got nothing to worry about anymore?
Well, I mean, obviously the situation is a lot better than it was a year ago. I mean, many of those things that were very uncertain last year are now having a better situation. There are consumers and society is a lot more prepared for even difficult outcome. And also the producers, they have found alternative suppliers for various fuels and supplies. And of course, we have Olkiluoto 3 up and running now. We have a lot more wind power now than we had a year ago. And in that way, the whole society and the power system is a lot more prepared for this kind of difficult situation. Then again, we do have these uncertainties that we always have, that the weather is a big question mark here in Finland because we can have the cold winter. Luckily, we didn't have that during last winter. And if we have a very cold period, that also might be calm, so we are a bit down with wind power during that time. And of course, I mean, as you mentioned, Olkiluoto 3, that's a big unit. We really hope that it will run smoothly throughout the winter. But Olkiluoto 3, as well as all other larger power plants, they might have some, or there is a possibility for problems always. So in that way, we can't say for certain that everything is now very fine for the next winter, but the situation looks a lot better than it was a year ago.
Yeah. And Riku, if I can ask you, are we over the worst? You know, is there, you know, can we sort of ease off, relax a bit now, or are there still the concerns here that Marko mentioned?
Well, definitely for Finland, I fully agree that the situation is far better than it was. Also in that let's say, just a couple of years ago, one can imagine that we had significant Russian supply to lose. But now there is not much actually Russian energy moving in here anymore, so that we don't need to prepare anymore for losing that because we have already adjusted to the new situation. So that's also part of the much better preparation. And of course, I think this is a great sign of success in Finnish energy policy, that we have been able to simultaneously increase nuclear power and wind power, and we also have all-time low emissions of Finnish power system right now. I think this should be marketed as a remarkable success.
Absolutely, but what does it mean for prices in Finland? You know, we're at Montel's Finnish Energy Day, where we also heard that Finland has gone from a high price area to a low price area. So what's the outlook for the coming months and years, Riku?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the right guy to comment that, but what we heard on some presentations also here in this event, I think that there is there is a real risk of us getting a really low price area. This exists, especially if we continue to go this way, that we have every year much more production and not much demand. I think it's quite... I agree fully with presentation which we saw there, that we have had 25 years of flat consumption, and now everyone is drawing really high increases of demand in a very short period, which would be something never seen in a totally industrialized society. So remains to be seen if that really occurs. That's a real risk, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we will return back to that and the forecast for demand. But there's been clearly a boom in wind power in Finland, Heidi. And what's behind that? And will it last?
Yeah, it's amazing boom going on at the moment. Of course, behind is that we have good regulation. It might take time, but it's doable. It's see-through. We have clear rules based on science, supporting the, for example, noise emission levels. So in that sense, project development is very doable in Finland. We have good project pipeline. We have plenty of room. We are size of Germany with only 5 million people. So we certainly have plenty of room for onshore wind power, and also we have very long coastline. And then we had a feed-in tariff system that really got the market started a bit later than in many other countries, but we were also one of the first countries to go to market-based construction. So plenty of reasons behind the boom right now. We see it ongoing, but we need the growing consumption to be able to construct this high amount of new wind power capacity. So for next few years we can go on like this, but then we need new consumption. We need responsive consumption.
And Fingrid is quite bullish in the terms of its outlook for demand. Marko, maybe you can talk us through that. What you expect, what kind of demand to come online, and what kind of numbers in the coming years.
Yes, I mean there is a possibility that Finnish power demand can increase like 50% during the next decade. There are many different projects behind that. A lot of those are hydrogen-based, of course. But in addition to hydrogen, we do have some more traditional industrial consumption. We have data centers. Even the electric vehicles are doing a little bit there, as well as district heating based on electricity. So both heat pumps and electric boilers will be more in use in future. So there are several different like sources providing this increase. But of course, the thing is that there are a lot of plans, but not that many investment decisions yet. So in that way, I understand the concern that on the production side, there are a lot of investment decisions, and they are waiting that this consumption is also coming. We have a lot of plans, and it's quite probable that not all of those plans will realize. But even if a part of those plans will realize, we will have a significant increase in power demand. And like you, Riku, said, this is something that we haven't seen. I mean, in past history, that this industrial society you can see so big change in a short time. But for example, if we think about the shale gas some years ago, that was a total game changer in some areas. And now this clean electricity can be similar game changer. So it's basically possible that a lot of these projects will realize. But as I said, we are not yet in having those investment decisions, and I understand that many producers are really eagerly waiting those decisions
before they actually embark fully on their plans. Yeah. Absolutely.
But is that in that way? I agree that the target or the forecast for wind power and solar power increase in Finland is quite ambitious, and to have that to realize, we need these demand investment decisions.
Absolutely. Is that demand going to be quite seasonal as well? If you're talking about heat pumps and the electrification of the heating sector, then
it will be seasonal. But of course, you need the district heating during summertime also. I mean, you have the hot water consumption in the cities and so on. And then the question is that if you have a very cheap electricity during summertime, you might actually use the electric boilers during summertime.
I would believe that the ones who are already having those electric boilers, they were really happy to see prices on the minus side because, well, there's no cheaper option for your heating then.
Yeah. I mean, and continuing on talking about negative prices, Riku, I mean, is this something, obviously we've seen prices come down to quite substantial lows just a few days ago. Do you think the prevalence of these prices, these types of prices, will increase?
Well, with current speed of increase in, let's say, also in European level on both wind and solar, let's say this rest production increases much faster than any flexibility on the system side. So I think that there's no other way in the medium term than they will definitely happen more often. And we also saw the exchanges, European power exchanges, changing the threshold for the second auction on the lower end. And I think that's a very clear sign that the exchanges are expecting more lower prices as well. Why would they do it otherwise?
I mean, I want to turn to Marko and Heidi here and ask you a little bit about how you combine wind and nuclear. Does that pose system challenges, or can they happily coexist, Heidi? I'll ask you first.
Well, until now we haven't been self-sufficient in terms of electricity, so there's definitely been room for both of them for all production. And now the question goes pretty much to how much consumption we will have, how responsive that will be. Of course, the winds don't always blow, so that sets a challenge for the system.
I mean, Marko, does the level of intermittency with wind, can nuclear adjust flexibly?
Well, we have seen that, for example, this Olkiluoto 3 has had several different power levels, as an output during the last couple of weeks with these negative prices. So obviously they can regulate nuclear power a little bit. That has not been the case in Finland typically, but now it seemed to be a bit different. But then again, if you can regulate the nuclear power a couple of 100 megawatts, that's not really an answer for the bigger picture. So obviously, a lot of this new demand need to have some flexibility, and that's very crucial. That so far nuclear power and wind power and all other power sources in Finland, they have worked very nicely together. We have, as many times told, the cheapest electricity in Europe at the moment, or quite often, and in that way. But the thing is that the more we will have the wind power, the more crucial it will be that also the demand is flexible, and in that way, of course, these hydrogen projects or the plans for these hydrogen projects, assuming that it's a kind of some part of the hydrogen is stored, kept in storage or that kind of things, is a good development.
And storage here is crucial, isn't it, Riku, as well? The flexible storage, such as batteries, sort of utility scale batteries. Is this something you're seeing in Finland already, or plans for that kind of infrastructure? Is that coming?
Well, at least I haven't really heard of much such investments that one would invest in batteries to play with them on the spot market. Those which we have seen have really been more on the ancillary service markets and that kind of stuff. So let's say we don't seem to be there yet in economic point. I would at least, one clear thing which we are now missing is clearly the flexibility in the transmission lines, because I think part of the problems lately in Finland have happened because we don't have a reliable power connection to Sweden, because Svenska kraftnät has blocked the connection to middle Sweden. And that has been actually one of the causes why we have had so low prices in just Finland, because we haven't had no place to, let's say, transmit the power to. And well, we also have had annual maintenances in the Estlink cable, which I think also that had an effect why especially we had lately these very low prices in Finland.
Absolutely. Marko, but that's about to change, isn't it? There's the Aurora line that's being built but that's maybe northern Sweden more than middle Sweden, isn't it? But that surely would help in these cases.
Yes, Aurora line is a very good addition to our system, because in that line enables us to connect our wind power, the Swedish wind power, and especially to the very good storages that they have in Swedish river systems. So that will help definitely our situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Heidi, if I hear a lot of complaints or concerns maybe across Europe about bureaucratic obstacles to wind power and solar development, or generally the renewables expansion. And permitting rules being the main thing. Is that an issue in Finland? Or, it's and the sort of NIMBYism, not in my backyard, although I think Wind Europe had something similar. They called it WIMBY, as in wind in my backyard. But what's happening in Finland? Is there an obstacle, or are there hurdles in place because of the permitting rules?
Well, I think in the permitting process, there's always room to make it smoother. That it's not perfect anywhere ever. So plenty of ideas we have how to make it better. But in big picture, it works. bottlenecks we see in some areas related to transmission, grid connections. Of course, the handling times of administrative courts are very, very long in Finland, which causes delays of several years for wind projects. But then your NIMBY comment, I think the local acceptance needs to be sought every time separately in each project. So it's that demands a lot from the project developer. They really need to meet the local people and gain their trust, and that's very, very important part of the game. Even though it's not a permitting project as such, but it's the social permit, social license to operate.
I mean, if you don't have the social acceptance, then obviously that causes problems. So that's but again, it's time consuming, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, that takes a lot of coffee drinking, certainly.
Yeah.
I could definitely comment that I think the Finnish property tax system for power plants is a remarkable success, because that's really one big difference between Finland and many other countries. Because in Finland, the municipality where the wind power or hydropower or whatever power plant is located in, they get a significant amount locally to that particular municipality, and that has really helped the acceptance in Finland. And this is totally different in many places in Central Europe. Many municipalities don't get anything, and then why would they be interested?
Exactly.
So there's a big difference in this, and I think this is one of the, let's say, hidden factors behind the Finnish success.
Certainly. Yeah, and that's very true. Thanks for bringing up the topic. Already in Sweden, we see that they're carefully looking what Finland is doing, and it's crucial for the industry that the property tax remains as the benefit of the municipality also in future. That's the could say the only and the biggest motivation for municipalities. If it's small municipality, a lot of wind power, that really, really plays a role in a time when the municipality economics are pretty much struggling in most parts of the country.
And that provides the sort of local population with a sense of ownership of the projects as well. If they're not just, I mean, economically, and that's important, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they can really see the benefit in their own tax rates.
Yeah, lower taxes and
lower taxes, better services,
better services,
new schools. Many wind power municipalities are constructing at the moment. So it's something very concrete that people actually can see in their everyday lives.
Yeah. For many municipalities, this also means that they can keep their independence. They don't need to join for bigger municipalities because of the economical situation. That can be very important for some local people.
exactly.
But isn't that, as long as, a lot of these plants and developments remain profitable, Riku? I mean, if we see, if there's a massive increase in supply as is being talked about, is there a danger of cannibalization, that a lot of, in a sense, that, more and more capacity coming online will drive prices down further and further, which then would hit the profitability of such units?
Yes, I definitely think that cannibalization is a very significant risk in wherever in Europe you are, including Finland, both for solar, which we see very evidently in the Netherlands, for example, and then also for wind. Cannibalization is much more a risk than it used to be. And if you are an investor, you must make your own evaluations of what it will be. Nobody can say what it exactly will be, but to not be prepared for that would be strange.
In Finland, our wind power capacity is heavily concentrated in the western parts of the country, in North Ostrobothnian region. So in the Finnish case, it would be crucial that we would be able to construct wind power also in eastern parts of the country. A lot of benefits there. Of course, the transmission to the southern areas would be shorter. If it's not windy in the western parts of the country, it's highly likely windy in the eastern parts of the country. Municipality benefits, of course, that there's plenty of municipalities in eastern Finland that would be eager to take the tax benefits. And also, it's getting a bit crowded with wind turbines in some parts of the country. So definitely the issue with coexisting with military radars needs to be solved. And it's not only about getting the wind power projects in those regions, because the power to X hydrogen industry, all the new green industry will follow the wind.
And if that's I suppose the flip side of the coin, that if you have a lower price area, lower prices, then that attracts more industry as well. But are you getting signs from developers that they're being a bit more cautious now, given the situation in Finland? It's not oversupply, but it's certainly ample supply, and the threat that could hit the profitability of projects that they're planning.
What we see at the moment is a huge rush in project development in greenfields. So there's very heated competition over land lease agreements in areas. So apparently it's not visible for us yet. But then what will happen in a year or a couple of years is another thing.
Are you getting inundated with grid connection requests, applications there, Marko?
Yeah, we have a lot of grid connection questions that you might have heard. That I mean, there are a lot of gigawatts possible projects, and at the moment, I think that was it so that we have something close to 6 gigawatts wind power at the moment. So some 5 gigawatts is on pipeline, so either on construction or the grid connection agreement has been done. Mm-hmm. So that seemed to be that this close to 6 gigawatts can double in some years with these. And then the question is that how much after that will realize, but that's then more connected to how the consumption will increase.
Absolutely. And what's your view here then, Riku, on the outlook for wind power in Finland? Can it continue on the same track and the same speed that it has been doing so far?
Yeah, well, I think that at least that we are very clearly seeing the signs that it cannot be much faster than it already is. So in a way, we have accelerated as much as we can, and we really can't accelerate much more. So, but I am relatively certain that this speed, we have so much project in the pipeline, just like said, that in a way that those will be realized. But I think that there will be a challenge, and let's say, I think that if one looks really on the big picture of the European industry here, it's a boom and bust industry, or it has been so. And let's say I would be really surprised if that doesn't come at some point, that we have much lower investments. But of course, to say when, that's very hard question. Yeah. But there will be a season when a time when there will be lower speed of investments. I'm certain of that.
Everywhere are fluctuating to some extent, so there's no steady market in that sense.
No, it's very cyclical, isn't it, in a sense? But I think actually we've run out of time pretty much. So I think it's been fascinating to hear about the Finnish success story, both in wind and for nuclear, and the way that the market operates. So Riku, Marko, and Heidi, thank you very much for joining the Montel Weekly Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.